about as the Lord takes us into the teaching this morning. As much as things change, they really stay the same. Only let me put a finer point on it. Things do change over the course of time, in the course of our lives even. If we've lived any amount of time, we have seen a rapid change of things in remarkable ways. Some of them good, some not, but things have really changed. People, however, people don't change. What they were, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden after their rebellion against God, and what we are today, and every generation in between, really is pretty much the same. People really don't change. Things change in life. But who we are as individuals, who we are as people, what our nature is, what we're like as individuals really doesn't change. I'll show you. They followed him. This crowd, this gathering, this group, they were so enamored with him, so caught up in this Jesus of Nazareth that they followed him. They didn't even know exactly where he was going, but by hook and by crook and by following the clues and watching what was happening and how and why, they followed him. They got in boats, they came by land, they walked, they ran. They came with their little ones and their big ones. They followed this Jesus. What were they looking for from him? Think of this morning, loved ones. What were they looking for from Jesus? They had taken this circuitous route to try to get to him again, to hear his voice again, to watch him again. What were they looking for? Well, some of them, we know this to be true, some of them that followed Jesus and the disciples to Capernaum were following him because they had sat on the side of the hill when he took a few loaves and a few fish and fed thousands. Some of them were among those who sat on that hillside and had their bellies filled by this remarkable Jewish teacher. And so we can suspect, we can gather, we can presume that part of what was happening is some of them followed because look what he did. Some of them probably followed him too, loved ones, because they had heard, maybe they had seen firsthand this Jesus, I don't know, give sight to a blind person, deaf to one who could, hearing to one who couldn't hear. Maybe open the eyes of a blind person. Somehow this Jesus had done something. They had either seen it firsthand or they'd heard about it. And so they're following him. What were they looking for from Jesus? As they tracked him down, him and his disciples, and came to him. As they gathered around him, as they questioned him, as they looked to him, as they asked him, as they heard his voice, what were they looking for? It's easy for us to assume and presume that they had all kinds of ulterior motives, but I would guess that probably what was true of that crowd is the same thing that's true of this crowd this morning. There were people that had tracked Jesus to Capernaum because they were looking for full bellies, or they were looking for him to do a miracle, or they were looking for some kind of deep and abiding solution for what was going on inside of them. Every color, every phase, every bit of the panorama, these people came. What were they looking for from Jesus? Today, did you know the question is the same one for you and I? As we step away from our lives and into this hour, into this moment, as we come to this place this morning, what are we looking for from Jesus? Because I'll tell you something, loved ones, how we answer that question says a lot about us. You know, the most common, the most typical response, listen to this, is I want a bread provider. In other words, I want him to put bread on my table. I want him to put a roof over my head. I want him to put clothes on my back. I want him to give me something to drive. I want him to make sure that I have enough income to pay my bills and maybe a little left over. What do I want from Jesus? I want a bread provider. Unless I can do it for myself. I'll come into his presence and this, just like they followed him to Capernaum, I'll come and you know what I'm looking for? Gosh, this guy could take loaves and fish and multiply them. He filled up 5,000 men besides women and children. I want a bread provider. The other really common answer is, listen to it. I want kind of a divine repairman. I want a Mr. Fix-It of sorts. I want this Jesus to step into my life, and whatever is broken, I want him to fix it. I want him to fix my boss. I want him to fix my job. I want him to fix my marriage. I want him to fix my kids. I want Him to fix my health. I want Him to fix my finances. What I'm looking for from Jesus, well, I'll tell you. What I want from Him is this. I want Him to straighten out my problems. I want you to hear this morning, loved ones. Listen. If that's what we're looking for, if that's all we're looking for, we're going to be really disappointed. Having been a Christian a long time and a pastor a fairly long time, this is an observation that is so clear to me how vulnerable we all are, preacher included. How many times we follow this Jesus to the place in our lives because we so much want Him to what? I want Him to make sure that all of my physical needs are provided for. I want Him to fix what's gone wrong in my family, in my life, with my job, with my finances, with my health. I want Jesus to fix this stuff. And then, think of this, and then when He doesn't, I'm frustrated or I'm disappointed or I get this delusion that somehow my faith wasn't big enough or strong enough. Maybe that's what was wrong. When all the time, listen to me this morning, loved ones, when all the time what was really wrong, what is really wrong inside of you and me is that's not why He came. I got to step down here. Listen. That's not why He came. I know as Christians, like for the people of Israel grumbling in the wilderness, I know that this God is so gracious and so kind that as window dressing in our lives, He provides those physical and emotional things that you and I need in the course of our living. But you hear me this morning, that's not why He came. Knowing us better than we know ourselves. Deeply and intimately acquainted with who and what you and I are. We will come like thousands have come before. We'll come to Christian churches like this one on a Sunday morning like this. And if we were to unfold the opening in the book, we were just kind of to fold it back and could look inside of you. There would be some here this morning because it's who we are as people. There'd be some who came in today and you're struggling to make your mortgage payment, or someone is sick in your family, or you're sick of your job, or your marriage is coming apart, and you come here and you think, I need Jesus too. I need Him to fix this. I want Him to fix this. I want Him to put bread on my table. I want Him to straighten out my teenager. I want Him to help my husband, my wife love me again. I want a different job or a better boss. I need to be well again. This is what I want from Jesus. And listen to this. If that's what we come looking for, if it's all we come looking for, we will be disappointed. It's not why He came. You see, listen, loved ones, this is the answer Jesus has for us. He says to them at Capernaum, He says, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will never hunger. He who believes in me will never, ever thirst. I have been sent by the Father as bread for the life of the world. Which is Jesus' way. Hear me this morning. It's His way of telling us that He knows exactly what we need. Food for our hearts and souls. Listen to it. Food for our hearts and souls. Jesus comes to provide pardon that heals us, makes us well. He comes to share His peace with us that settles our minds and our hearts because we know that the Father is no longer angry with us. He comes to plant inside of you and me His resurrection life that can never come to an end. Food for our hearts and our souls. And I'll tell you today, loved ones, whether we realize it or not, today that is exactly what we need. Some came today. Well, I did too a little bit. With this stuff from my life out here, and gosh, I wish God would fix it. Fill it. Make it right. Wouldn't you like to walk again, Tom? And so we come here with all of that from our lives, and Jesus says, I know that, I know. And I love you. But I have something better for you. Something that you need even more today and for every day from here to eternity. I have food for your hearts and your souls. In fact, this is God's loving work in your life and mine. It is on Sunday mornings like this teaching us to accept and live with His answer. Which means in part, oh gosh, it means in part you and I learning this is not about bread and Band-Aids. It's not about God filling our tables or fixing our problems. Listen to this, loved ones. Sometimes He does. And we praise Him for the gift. But we know, as we learn from His Word, hear me this morning, we know that's just the window dressing. He plants this, He gives it into us, and as we learn as His children, we start to desire better things from Christ. Those things which will connect us to Him. Because God promises, loved ones, ultimately that and only that will really and truly satisfy us. Let me show you something. Verna, stand up, huh? Turn around. Isn't she beautiful? Say yes. Yes. She is. She's also getting old. It's okay though, isn't it? So if this is about bread and Band-Aids, why doesn't God make her young again? Poof! Sit down. If that's all Jesus came for, so that we could be fat and happy here? Oh, come on. The cross is bigger. The empty tomb more powerful. What He gives and brings to your life and mine, so much more precious. So today, what did we come looking for? If it's full bellies and quick fixes, loved ones, we're going to be disappointed. That's not why He came. It's not why we're here. Instead, His answer for us is so much better. I am the bread of life, Jesus said. Sent down from my Father to give life to the world. To you. To you. To all of you. I am the bread of life. Oh, praise God for the gift. On this Sunday morning, this is the teaching of the Lord. If you would rise, please.